And welcome to our celebration of Swami Vivekananda's birthday, which of course will be accompanied by a worship service of Puja. Swami Vivekananda was born Narendranath Datta to a prominent family of Calcutta. The Gregorian calendar date of his birth is January 12th, 1863, but we tend to celebrate the birthday according to the lunar calendar. So his lunar birthday was just a few days ago, which means that to enable the most people to be part of the celebration, we celebrate on a Sunday. So we're having the birthday celebration and puja today. And next Sunday, we will celebrate the birthday of Swami Brahmananda, who was born January 21st, 1863, 9 days after Swami Vivekananda, or Narendranath. Narendranath was a remarkable boy. I'll tell you more about what Shiramakrishna said about him in a bit. But first, just about how he was at home as a young boy. Very strong-willed, hot-tempered. His mother said that to calm him down when he was just a young boy, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, she would pour a bucket of water on his head and chant Shiva Shiva, because he was so emphatic in his behavior. He was very inclined to spiritual practices from his early boyhood, meditation, study of the scriptures, contemplation of the deities, and so on. He was, from a very early age, a capable musician, more than capable, remarkable musician, singer, player of instruments, and so on, and songwriter. We all know, who follow this tradition, of the two hymns that we use each evening, Om Hring Ritam and Kandana Bhavana, which is translated and recited in English as Breaker of this World's Chain. Those are two of the songs of the many songs that he wrote. As he grew up, Swami Vivekananda had to be restrained from giving away the family's belongings to sannyasins and the less fortunate. They actually had to sometimes just put him in his room and keep him from giving things away. And then he would open his window and throw things out the window. So the attribute of sannyasa, renunciation, was in his family. His grandfather actually became a sannyasin, a wandering monastic in those days, though his father was a prominent lawyer of the High Court of Calcutta. Made quite a bit of money, but was not a provident man. And as we'll hear, that led to some unhappiness. As Swami Vivekananda grew up, or actually I should say as Narendranath grew up, he began to go to different holy people, and he would ask them this one question: have you seen God? And the normal answer would be something like, oh, you have the eyes of a yogi, so on and so forth. And they wouldn't answer directly. Well, when he was in his late teens, already an accomplished student, accomplished musician, and a very bright and self-confident, one could even say brash young man, he was taken to see Sri Ramakrishna. Now, Sri Ramakrishna startled the daylights out of him the first time they met. Sri Ramakrishna pulled him aside into a quiet corner and said, "Oh, how could you have kept me waiting so long? You've come at last," and began to speak of him as if they'd known one another uh, before and for a long time. And then he touched him on his chest, and the world began to disappear for Vivekananda. Sri Ramakrishna had that power. And he said to Sri Ramakrishna, "What are you doing to me? I have my parents at home." And Sri Ramakrishna touched him on the chest again and said, "Well, it needn't happen all at once." But of course, this absolutely floored Vivekananda. No one had ever been able to overpower his mind. He was very proud of the fact that he had a strong and indomitable mind. So he went home puzzling over this and said, "He must have hypnotized me. It won't happen again." And when he came back to see Sri Ramakrishna again, it did happen again. And this time it lasted. And so when he returned to ordinary consciousness, he was absolutely beside himself. He didn't know what to think. And at the same time, he'd heard from people who knew Sri Ramakrishna, of Sri Ramakrishna's strange behavior, and said, well, he must just be a crazy man. He just must be crazy. There's something about him. He must just be crazy. But then, because he had such a fine mind, he didn't come to that firm conclusion and reject Sri Ramakrishna. He came again, and this time he heard Sri Ramakrishna sitting and talking calmly and very rationally with a group of devotees. Now, at this time, Narendranath was in his late teens. At this time, his father suddenly and unexpectedly died, leaving the family. As I said, Narendranath's father was not a provident man. He had not made provisions for the family. And so the family was rendered almost destitute. This, of course, as the eldest son, put tremendous pressure on Vivekananda, who was studying law. And so it was expected that he would provide for the family. He would take care of the family. But he was feeling already this strong pull toward renouncing the world. Now, I said I would tell you who Sri Ramakrishna said that Narendranath was. Sri Ramakrishna said, that Narendranath was the sage Nara, one of the 7 sages known as the 7 pillars of the universe. Ever existing and ever free, never bound by Maya, souls, the sage Nara. Now, the sage Nara, ever existing, there's reason to believe there's a connection between Nara and there's an etymological, a word language connection between the name Nara and Manu and the word Noah. So this is an ancient sage that has been part of human history, and so may have actually have been Noah. Now, if we think about Noah, the simple story is God told him to build an ark and get two of everything that existed so it could repopulate the earth. All living creatures and plants and so on were to be put into this ark. Well, this is the same story that is in the Mahabharata about Manu. Very similar story. And of course, this could not be done by an ordinary person. To collect everything that would enable it to continue to propagate after the Great Flood. So Noah, Manu, must have had some extraordinary yogic powers, psychic powers, whatever you want to call them, to populate their ark with this. So in any event, Sri Ramakrishna had this very high opinion of Narendranath, saying that he was the sage Nara, who is said to be a partial incarnation of Shiva. So, and he insisted to his disciples that he told this to, not to divulge what he had said to Narendranath, because he said as soon as he knows who he is, he will leave. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. Sri Ramakrishna educated Narendranath to be his spokesperson, specifically his spokesperson to the West. Sri Ramakrishna said, I have disciples in the West. I don't speak their language. Sri Ramakrishna didn't, he was a Bengali Brahmin, but he educated Vivekananda to go. And at one time, Vivekananda said, after he had become Swami Vivekananda, he said, I have a mission to the West, as Buddha had a mission to the East. The mission was Sri Ramakrishna's. And so as Sri Ramakrishna educated him and prepared, Sri Ramakrishna prepared to leave the body, which he did at age 50 in August of 1886. He left Vivekananda in charge of a group of young men who founded a monastery by the grace of some of the householder devotees. A monastery was established at Baranagar, and that began in December of 1887. It began the informal formation of the Ramakrishna Order of India, which Vivekananda formalized 10 years later in 1897. In any event, Narendranath became Swami Vivekananda, and in 1893 became the most prominent speaker and personality at the first World's Parliament of Religions held in Chicago, September 1893. So Swami Vivekananda stayed in the West and taught from 1893 to 1897, went back to India, tied up some loose ends about his family's business and so on, and formed the Ramakrishna Order of India formally in the Ramakrishna Mission and Mat Monastery, and then returned to the United States in 1899 and continued his work, including the work that he did on the West Coast. Now, what did Sri Ramakrishna teach through Swami Vivekananda? It could go on for days and days and days, of course, that conversation. But the basic message was fearlessness and the power of love. Fearlessness and love. Now, to be fearless is not to not have fear. Fearlessness is to face fear and not let it dominate you, not let it guide your actions. It's said that a person of faint heart dies 1,000 deaths. A hero dies but once, because the person of faint heart constantly is fearful of what's going to happen. And so they die 1,000 deaths. A hero dies but once. Vivekananda taught that. He taught that in the context of understanding who you truly are, the divine being in manifest form, as a jiva, as an embodied being. But the way to express yourself, he said, so to be fearless is to not let the world overcome you and be guided by your concerns and your fears. But how do you behave in the world? How do you express yourself? He said it is through love. Love. So he taught the path of devotion. He taught the path of action. He taught the path of concentration or meditation. And he taught the path of knowledge. But interwoven with all of it was the power of love. And so Vivekananda left with us not only these many Vedanta societies and centers throughout the West, but this message of emphasizing your true nature. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal of human life is to manifest that divinity. Do this through work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, one or more of all of these, and be free. All else, he said, of religion is secondary details. So the goal is to manifest your divinity. The two main attributes in order to do that are, according to Vivekananda, fearlessness and love. So much, much more could be said about Swami Vivekananda. He was known in his work and life here in the West as the Cyclonic Monk, because he worked so hard and so fiercely that he brought his body to physical ruin at an early age. And so he left the body quite deliberately on July 4th, 1902. By that I mean he decided when he would go for reasons of his own, And in a way of his own devising, he laid down on his bed July 4th, 1902, and left the body at age 39. As I said, we could go on for days, days and days, talking about Vivekananda, his teachings, shiramakrishna and his teachings to Vivekananda. But this remarkable boy, who shiramakrishna said was indeed the sage Nara, became this remarkable teacher. And he left us with much to study, to digest, to assimilate, and to manifest in our lives. And I'm going to close by singing a short song. This song, though it was written by Rodgers and Hammerstein in the 1940s, could have been written by Swami Vivekananda. The message is so much Vivekananda's. And the song is, "You'll Never Walk Alone." When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky, and the sweet silver song of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with love in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. No, you'll never walk alone. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with love in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. No, you'll never walk alone. Om Amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. And now we'll turn the activities over to our beloved and most capable Pujari, Untitled Chapter, who will conduct the worship and invoke the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda among us. Jai Thakur, Jai Ma, Jai Swamiji.
Namaste everybody. We begin today's puja with worshipping Thakur, and then we'll offer a small puja to Swamiji. And yeah, so as I've repeated myself again and again, so this is not something that I'm doing alone, but as also like brother has put it, you're not walking alone. But so similarly, in the path of puja, we are not. I'm not doing it alone, but everybody is here together with me, and so yeah. So the first half of the puja is all about uh, uh, purification, both internal and external. So we remove all sorts of impurities um, that might be there attached in our consciousness. Although I mean consciousness like never gets polluted, but whatever it be, we remove any sorts of impurities that are in there and also externally, and then we proceed on to offering, making like offerings of water to wash the feet of the deity and welcoming the deity, and then um fragrance, sandal paste, flowers, a lamp, and incense, and finally fruits and cooked food. So this will be the order of the puja, and I begin by invoking Vishnu and other deities. ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्यं वरेण्यं वरदं शुभं नारायणं नमस्कृत्य सर्वकर्माणि कारये। ॐ विष्णु 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 ॐ तद्विष्णोः परमं पदं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवीव चक्षुरा ततम् ॐ अपवित्रः पवित्रो वा सर्वस्थां गतोऽपि वा यः स्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाक्षं स वायाभ्यन्तरः शुचिः।
I need some water. Need some water.
ॐ एते गन्धपुष्पे आधारशब्दादिभ्यो नमः। नमः 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 नमः। We are consecrating the water, so and invoking all the seven sacred rivers of India to take place in this vessel, so that the water that we offer to the deity, to Thakur today and Swamiji, is the purest of all. So we invoke all these different rivers, including Ganga and Yamuna here. Oh. ॐ गंगे च यमुने चैव गोदावरी सरस्वती नर्मदे सिन्धु कावेरी जलेऽस्मिन् सन्निधिं कुरु। ॐ एते गन्धपुष्पे सर्वेभ्यो तीर्थेभ्यो नमः। ॐ द्वारदेवताभ्यो नमः। ॐ एते गन्धपुष्पे द्वारदेवताभ्यो नमः। ॐ ब्रह्मणे नमः। ॐ एते गन्धपुष्पे वास्तुपुरुषाय नमः। Now we invoke Shiva to cast away all, if there be any evil presence around here, all the bhutas who might enjoy our offerings away. So cast them away by invoking Shiva. And Om Apasarpanchate Bhutaye Bhutabhu Samsita Ye Bhutabhisha Kartaste Nashyantu Shivagmaya. Now we purify our seat. Om Raksha Raksha Hum Fat Swaha. Om Asyasanopaveşana mantrasya meru prishtha rishi sutalam chanda kurmo devata asanopaveshane viniyogaha. Om Prithvi Tvaya Dhrita Loka Devi Tvam Vishnuna Dhrita Tvam च धारय मां नित्यं पवित्रं कुरु चासनम्. Om ह्रीं गन्धपुष्पे आधारशक्तये कमलासनाय नमः. ऐं गुरुभ्यो नमः ऐं परम गुरुभ्यो नमः ऐं परापरा गुरुभ्यो नमः ऐं परमेष्टि गुरुभ्यो नमः ओं गणेशाय नमः. ओम ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः. ओम शताभिषेक हुं फट् स्वाहा. ओम शताभिषेक हुं फट् स्वाहा. ओम शताभिषेक हुं फट् स्वाहा. ओम पुष्पे पुष्पे महापुष्पे सुपुष्पे पुष्पसंभवे पुष्पे च यावकीर्णे च हुं फट् स्वाहा. So now we also purified the flowers and sandal paste that we'll be offering. Uh, and followed by this is purifying the mantras or the syllables uh, and the vessels of used in the puja. So Om Amaimam Kamaim Kam Chamaim Cham Tamaim Tam Tamaim Tam Pamaim Pam Yamaim Yam Shamaim Sham. Om Ram 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 Ram. Om Aim Bhai. Om Aim Bhai. Om Am Hum Fat Swaha. Om Am Hum Fat Swaha. Om Am Hum Fat Swaha. Then I will request Goddess Durga, who protects us all, to protect us while performing this puja, and then perform the pranayam, and then invoke Thakur, who's the deity for today's puja, um, in my own body breath, which is called pran pratishtha. So basically, invoking and establishing the deity um within oneself, and then consecrating it, and the body, that is, making it the instrument fit for performing the worship, and also making it one with the deity. Om Durge Durge Rakshini Swaha. Om Am Hum Fat Swaha. Om Durge Durge Rakshini Swaha. Om Am Hum Fat Swaha. Om Durge Durge Rakshini Swaha. Om Am Hum Fat Swaha. भूतशृङ्गाटाच्छिरः सुषुम्नापथेन जीवशिवं परमशिवपदे योजयामि स्वाहा। ॐ यं लिङ्गशरीरं शोषय शोषय स्वाहा। ॐ रं सङ्कोच शरीरं दह दह स्वाहा। ॐ परमशिव सुषुम्नापथेन मूलशृङ्गाटमूल्यसोल्लसज्ज्वल ज्वल प्रज्वल प्रज्वल सोऽहं हंसः स्वाहा। आं हुं फट् स्वाहा। आं हुं फट् स्वाहा। आं हुं फट् स्वाहा। So, आं ह्रीं क्रों यं रं नमः शं सं सं हौं हंस श्रीरामकृष्ण देवताय प्राणाय प्राण। आं ह्रीं क्रों यं रं नमः शं सं सं हौं हंस श्रीरामकृष्ण देवताय जीवय स्थितः। आं ह्रीं क्रों यं रं नमः शं सं सं हौं हंस श्रीरामकृष्ण देवताय सर्वेन्द्रियाणि। ॐ आं ह्रीं क्रों यं रं नमः शं सं सं हौं हंस श्रीरामकृष्ण देवताय वाङ्मनश्चक्षुत्वक्षोत्रघ्राणप्राणयागत्य सुरं चिरं तिष्ठन्तु स्वाहा। ओम अस्य मातृका मंत्रस्य ब्रह्मर्षि गायत्री छन्दः देवी मातृका सरस्वती देवता हलो बीजानि स्वराः शक्तयः अव्यक्तकीलकं सर्वाभीष्टसिद्धये लिपिन्यासे विनियोगः। ओम ब्रह्मणे ऋषये नमः। ओम गायत्री छन्दसे नमः। ओम देवी मातृका सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम हलभ्यो बीजेभ्यो नमः। ओम स्वरेभ्यो शक्तिभ्यो नमः। ओम अव्यक्तकीलकाय नमः। अंकं कंकं गं 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 मुष्टाभ्यां नमः। ईं चम चम जम 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 ईं तर्जनीभ्यां स्वाहा। ओम टम 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 नमो मध्यमाभ्यां वषटीं तम 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 नमः नामिकाभ्यां ओम पम 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 कनिष्ठाभ्यां वषट् अम्यं रं नमः शमनं क्षमा करतलभिष्टाभ्यां अस्त्राय फट्। ओम अंकं कंकं गं 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 गां हृदाय नमः। ईं चम चम जम 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 झिं झम ईं शिरसे स्वाहा। ओम टम 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 नमो शिखायै वषट्। ईं तम 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 नमः मम कवचाय ओम। ओम पम 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 नेत्रत्रयाय वषट्। अम्यं रं नमः शमनं क्षमा करतलभिष्टाभ्याम् अस्त्राय फट्। ॐ ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्व। ॐ एतेभ्यो गन्धादिभ्यो नमः। ॐ एतेभ्यो गन्धादिभ्यो नमः। ॐ एतेभ्यो गन्धादिभ्यो नमः। ॐ एते गन्धपुष्पे एतेभ्यो गन्धादिभ्यो नमः। ॐ एते गन्धपुष्पे एतत् सम्प्रदानेभ्य पूजनीय देवताभ्यो नमः। ॐ एते गन्धपुष्पे एतद्धीपतये देवाय विष्णवे नमः। Now we make an offering to sun, the sun god Surya. ॐ नमो विवस्वते ब्रह्मन् भास्वते विष्णु तेजसे जगत्सवित्रे शुचये सवित्रे कर्मदायिने। ॐ ईश्वर्यः श्री सूर्याय नमः। ॐ जवाकुसुमसङ्काशं काश्यपेयं महादितिं ध्वान्तारिं सर्वपापघ्नं प्रणतोऽस्मि दिवाकरम्। Now we meditate on our Guru and offer flower and salutation to him. ॐ ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। ॐ इति गन्धपुष्पे श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Now we offer flowers and sandal paste.
Thank you.
Now we offer sandal paste and flowers to Ganesh and other deities, everybody basically we can think of. So, Om Ete Gandha Pushpe Ganeshadi Panchadevatabhyo Namaha. Om Gamete Gandha Pushpe Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya Ete Gandha Pushpe Shivaya Namaha. Om Namo Narayanaaya Ete Gandha Pushpe Narayanaya Namaha. Om Ete Gandha Pushpe श्री सूर्याय नमः। ओम ह्रीं एते गंधपुष्पे श्री जय दुर्गायै नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे आदित्यादि नवग्रहेभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे इंद्रादि दश दिक्पालेभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे मत्स्यादि दशावतारेभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे काल्यादि दश महाविद्याभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे सर्वेभ्यो देवेभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे सर्वेभ्यो देवीभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे अकारादि पंचाशद वर्णेभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे प्रतिपदादि तिथिभ्यो नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे कृष्णपक्षाय नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे शुक्लपक्षाय नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे अमावस्यायै नमः। ओम एते गंधपुष्पे पूर्णिमायै नमः। ओम पीठ देवताभ्यो नमः। ओम पीठ शक्तिभ्यो नमः। ओम ऐं सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपाय श्री रामकृष्णाय नमः इत्यस्य मंत्रस्य ब्रह्म ऋषि गायत्री छन्दः सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपः श्री रामकृष्ण देवता ऋष्यादिन्यासे विनियोगः। ओम ब्रह्मणे ऋषये नमः। ओम गायत्री छन्दसे नमः। ओम सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपाय श्री रामकृष्णाय नमः। ऐं अंगुष्ठाभ्यां नमः। राम तर्जनीभ्यां स्वाहा। मम मध्यमाभ्यां वषट् क्लीवानामिकाभ्यां हूं श्रम कनिष्ठाभ्यां वषट्। ऐं रामकृष्ण करतलभिष्टाभ्याम् अस्त्राय फट्। ऐं हृदाय नमः। राम शिरसे स्वाहा। क्लीं शिखाय वषट्। श्रम नेत्रत्रयाय वषट्। ओम ऐं रामकृष्ण करतलभिष्टाभ्याम् अस्त्राय फट्। ओम ऐं सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपाय श्री रामकृष्णाय नमः। ओम ऐं सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपाय श्री रामकृष्णाय नमः। ओम ऐं सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपाय श्री रामकृष्णाय नमः। Now we meditate on Thakur who resides in our heart and is beyond good or bad or all such dualities basically. ॐ हृदयकमलमध्ये राजितं निर्विकल्पं सदसदखिलभेदातीतमेकस्वरूपं प्रकृतिविकृतिशून्यं नित्यमानन्दमूर्तिं विमलपरमहंसं रामकृष्णं भजामः। निरूपम् अतिसूक्ष्मं निष्प्रपञ्चं निरीहं गगनसदृशमीशं सर्वभूताधिवासं त्रिगुणरहित सच्चित् ब्रह्मरूपं वरेण्यं विमलपरमहंसं रामकृष्णं भजामः। विदुरितुम् अवतीर्णं ज्ञानभक्तिः प्रशान्तिः प्रणयवलयचित्तं जीवदुःखासहिष्णुं धृतसहजसमाधिं चिन्मयं कोमलाङ्गं विमलपरमहंसं रामकृष्णं भजामः। ॐ मृदपद्मासनं दद्यात् सहस्राराचितामृतैः पाद्यं चरणयोर्दद्यात्मनस्वर्घ्यं निवेदयेत्। तेनामृतेनाचमनीयं स्नानीयं तेन च स्मृतम् आकाशतत्त्वं वस्त्रं स्याद्गन्धः स्याद्गन्धतत्त्वकम्। चित्तं प्रकल्पयेत् पुष्पं धूपं प्राणान् प्रकल्पयेत् तेजस्तत्त्वं च दीपार्थं नैवेद्यं सुधां बुधिः अनाहतध्वनिर्घण्टा वायुतत्त्वं च चामरम् सहस्रारं भवेत् छत्रं शब्दतत्त्वं च गीतकम् नृत्यमिन्द्रियकर्माणि चाञ्चल्यं मनस्तथा सुमेखला पद्ममालां पुष्पं नानाविधं तथा अमायाद्यैर्भावपुष्पैरर्चयेत् भावगोचरम् अमायामनहङ्कारम् अरागममदं तथा अहिंसा परमं पुष्पं पुष्पमिन्द्रियनिग्रहः दया पुष्पं क्षमा पुष्पं ज्ञानपुष्पं च पञ्चमम् इति पञ्चदशैर्भावपुष्पैः सम्पूजयेत् शिवम्। ॐ ह्रीमेते गन्धपुष्पे पीठदेवताभ्यो नमः। ॐ ह्रीमेते गन्धपुष्पे पीठशक्तिभ्यो नमः। ॐ ऐं अङ्गुष्ठाभ्यां नमः रामतर्जनीभ्यां स्वाहा मध्यमाभ्यां शक्तिमनामिकाभ्यां शङ्करनिष्ठाभ्यां वषट् ऐं रामकृष्ण करतलभिष्टाभ्याम् अष्टाय फट् ऐं हृदाय नमः रामशिरसे स्वाहा मम शिखाय वषट् पिङ्कवचाय श्रमनेत्रत्रयाय वषट् अं रामकृष्ण करतलभिष्टाभ्याम् अष्टाय फट् ॐ ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः। ॐ ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः। ॐ ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः। ॐ हृदयकमलमध्ये राजितं निर्विकल्पं सदसदखिलभेदातीतमेकस्वरूपं प्रकृतिविकृतिशून्यं नित्यमानन्दमूर्तिं विमलपरमहंसं रामकृष्णं भजामः। निरूपम् अतिसूक्ष्मं निष्प्रपञ्चं निरीहं गगनसदृशमीशं सर्वभूताधिवासं त्रिगुणरहितसच्चिद्ब्रह्मरूपं वरेण्यं विमलपरमहंसं रामकृष्णं भजामः। वितुरितुमवतीर्णं ज्ञानभक्तिः प्रशान्तिः प्रणयविलयचित्तं जीवदुःखासहिष्णुं धृतसहजसमाधिं चिन्मयं कोमलाङ्गं विमलपरमहंसं रामकृष्णं भजामः। श्रीरामकृष्णदेव ह्यागच्छ ह्यागच्छ ह्यतिष्ठ ह्यतिष्ठ ह्यसन्निधे ह्यसन्निधे ह्यसन्निरुध्यस्व ह्यसन्निरुध्यस्व ह्यसम्मुखो भव ह्यसम्मुखो भव अत्राधिष्ठानं कुरु मम पूजां गृहाण। ॐ ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः। ॐ ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः। ॐ ऐं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः। Now, having invoked Thakur, we start worshipping him. Om ऐं तत्पाद्यं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः. So we offered water to wash his feet. Now we offer him an arghya. Om ऐं ईशोऽर्घ्यः सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय वंशः. Now we offer him water to rinse his mouth. ॐ ऐं इदमाच्मनीयोदकं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय स्वधा. And now we offer breathing water to Sri Thakur. ॐ ऐं स्नानियोदकं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः. ॐ सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्ष सहस्रपात भूमिं विश्वतो तिष्ठदशाङ्गुलम्. ॐ क्षीरे पुरोहितं यज्ञस्य देववृत्वजं होतारं रत्नधातमम्. ॐ इथे पूर्जे स्वावाय वसदेवो वह सविता प्रार्थयतु श्रेष्ठतमाय कर्मणि. ॐ अग्न आयाहीरीतये गृह्णानो हव्यदातये निहोता सतिवर्हषि. ॐ शन्नो देवीरभीष्टये आपो भवन्तु पीतये शम्योरभिस्रवन्तु नः. ॐ रामकृष्णाय विद्महे गदाधराय धीमहि तन्नो देवः प्रचोदयात्. Now we offer sandal paste or fragrance to Thakur. ॐ ऐं मेषगन्धः सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपाय Shri Ramakrishnaय Namaha. Now we offer sandal paste and flower. Om Aim Ishogandha. Om Aim Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaय Namaha. Ishagandha Pushpa Shri Ramakrishnaय Namaha. Now the leaves. Om Aim Iti Idam Sachandanam Bilvapatram Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaय Namaha. Now we offer tulsi leaves. Om Idam Sachandana Tulasi Patram Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaaya Namaha. Namaste Bahurupaya Vishnave Paramatmane Swaha. Now we offer incense. Om Om Isha Bhupah Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaaya Namaha. Om Isha Bhupah Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaaya Namaha. And now having made these offerings to Thakur, we meditate on Swamiji. Om Vishwacharyam Jagadvandyam Vivekananda Veereshwarat Samutpannam Saptarshi Mandalagata Jnana Bhakti Pradataram Padmaksha Gaura Vigraham Dhyayedevam Jyoti Punjam Loka Kalyana Om Iti Gandha Pushpe Srimad Vivekananda Swamine Namaha. And now we offer food. So, and fruits. They come in like cubes. Om Idam Sopakarana Naivedyam Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaaya Namaha. Vametasmi Sopakarana Naivedyaya Namaha. Vametasmi Sopakarana Naivedyaya Namaha. Vametasmi Sopakarana Naivedyaya Namaha. Om Idam Sopakarana Naivedyam Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaaya Nivedayami. Om Amritopastharanamasi Swaha. Om Pranaya Swaha. Om Apanaya Swaha. Om Udanaya Swaha. Om Vyanaya Swaha. Om Samanaya Swaha. Now we do japa for 108 times, uh, meditating on the fact that Thakur is offering and like requesting him to take our offering and fruits. And these fruits also are symbols of the four fruits of that a human can desire in their life. So yeah, thinking like fruits, not only material fruits, but also fruit of all our actions we are offering while making the offering of food and fruits to uh, the deity. ॐ अमृतपिधानमसि स्वाहा। ॐ इदं श्रीरामकृष्ण दिव्यप्रसादं श्रीमत्सारदा देव्यै निवेदयामि। ॐ अमृतपिधानमसि स्वाहा। ॐ इदं श्रीरामकृष्ण दिव्यप्रसादं श्रीमद्विवेकानन्दादि रामकृष्ण पार्षदेभ्यो निवेदयामि। ॐ अमृतपिधानमसि स्वाहा। ॐ इदं पानार्थोदकं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय स्वधा। ॐ इदं आचमनीयोदकं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय स्वधा। ॐ इदं ताम्बूलं सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः। Now I make an offering on everybody's behalf, flowers to Swamiji, to Thakur Swamiji and Holy Mother. ॐ ईशासचन्दनपुष्पबिल्वपत्राञ्जलिः साङ्गाय सशक्तिकाय सपार्षदाय सर्वदेवदेवी स्वरूपाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय वौषाय। Now we do japa again. ॐ गुह्याति गुह्यगोप्तृत्वं गृहाणस्मत्कृतं जपं सिद्धिर्भवतु मे देव त्वत्प्रसादान् महेश्वरः। ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। यथाग्निर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता हिया सर्वविद्यां स्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। With this we conclude the puja and now I'll perform the arati. मूर्तमेश्वर So while doing the arati, we'll sing a song to Swamiji, which was composed by one of his disciples, whose name I cannot recall, but a household disciple. and he worships or he praises Swamiji as Murta Maheshwar, that is the Shiva or Maheshwara, the great Lord incarnate, who is as lustrous as the bright sun, whose body is the Veda itself, and who performs the great Tandava Nritya, and then the poet himself sees as the crescent, the Balachandra on Shiva's forehead. And yeah, so this is like Swamiji as Shiva, and it's a very beautiful song in Swamiji's praise. Naravandyam. So with this we conclude today's puja.
Jai shiramakrishna, Jai Ma, Jai Swamiji, Jai Raja.
So this is silent based hours. Oops.
So I'm still broadcasting.
We can stop, yeah, if you want to say something, or we can,
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank
they
you.
can't see you, okay. I can,
It's all right.
there, you can be seen.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who joined us. When Aditya says that we do this together, these are not just words. We imagine that there's time and space, but there is not. And so we are together in this in a very real way, heart to heart, mind to mind, thought to thought. And so thank you for being with us, and thank you for celebrating Swamiji's birthday with us. I'm sure that it touches his heart, but it's much more important to us to do this and to be this. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. It was a wonderful puja. Thank you to Aditya
Yes,
and all the devotees over there.